There we go. And so for those folks, as we're settling in, I just want to again introduce to some and represent to others our esteemed guest for today, best-selling author and yoga teacher, Susan Verde. Susan, welcome. It's good to be with you today. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. Your voice is so calming. I could listen to you read housekeeping lists all day long. So thank you for having me, though.
My pleasure. And when you're doing your next audiobook, give me a call.
Yes. Okay. Sounds good.
Well, Susan, we're going to ask you to share with us from your book, I Am Courage, in just a little bit. But as folks are continuing to settle in today, we really, as a natural way as possible, just really want to get a better sense of who you are and what got you to this point with us today, particularly in your awesome book, I Am Courage. So, first things first, what inspired you to write, of all things, a book like I Am Courage?
Well, actually, I am courage. So I have this series of books called, I guess you would call them the I Am series, which first started with I Am Yoga back in 2015, when I also first attended the kids yoga conference in person, if you can only imagine. Um, feels like 100 years ago, but each of these books kind of covers, topics like empathy and mindfulness and things like that. And so I Am Courage was really inspired by, I was kind of thinking about, okay, what do I, what do I want to talk about in sort of the next in this series, and what I was really noticing was that people, and kids in particular, are brave every day. And I felt like that needed to be celebrated, because a lot of times we don't even know we're being brave. We're so quick to judge ourselves and not celebrate these parts of ourselves that, we may not even be aware of. Um, Courage is often thought of, and I'll probably share my author's note that talks about this more, but courage is often thought of as like never being afraid or doing some, big major thing, like some huge gesture that shows how courageous you are. And really, it's just the everyday things, right? It's getting up in the morning when you don't feel like it. It's asking for help. It's trying something new. It's setting boundaries. So those things, I felt they really, really called for discussion and celebration. So that's what inspired me to write I Am Courage. And I like to say that, when these books are written, it's typically at least a year, if not more, before they come out into the world. So I have no idea what's going on in the world by the time they come out. And I had written I Am Courage probably three years ago. So I did not know that we were going to have to tap into our courage in the way we have over these last couple of years. So it just happened to work out that way.
Yeah, serendipity or happenstance. I think that's an awesome way that that just lined up the way that it did, that you could
Yeah.
share that kind of affirming message with us. Thank you for that. Susan, a lot of what I heard in that answer of what got you to write I Am Courage, I heard a lot of ritual and routine and discipline, maybe the word technique, and a lot of what you shared. Let me ask you this. Other folks leading up to today's event were invited and encouraged to share with us their favorite ways to teach courage. So I'm going to ask, if you would, could you share with us maybe even one activity or practice that you include when you share out some of the lessons or themes from this book, whether that's with young folks or older folks?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think my own yoga practice really just infuses all of these books. And um, one way I like to sort of talk about it, or reinforce the messages, is actually tapping into a little bit of that practice. And I have in the back of the book, some poses, but I typically will pull out my least favorite pose in all of the land, which is fierce pose, chair pose, whatever you want to call it, right? I really don't like it. It really hurts. I'm not into it. but it's there and I do it. And so I share that and I do that with them, but I do it with my, audience or whomever I'm speaking with the idea that uh, I can sit in this discomfort and know that ultimately it will be over. And I feel so much like our practices translate into our real lives. So I can, when I'm in a moment of discomfort, I can reflect back and be like, oh, wait, I got through that. So I can get through this. And so that's, I talk about, and it doesn't have to be a yoga pose, but that's how I make it sort of tangible. But, it's just this idea that you can do these things that you kind of like doing and feel uncomfortable in them. And then you can get through the discomfort in your lives off the mat. So that's one of the ways I try to kind of bring it all together.
That's beautiful. Thank you for that share. I was going to say, if I didn't know any better, I'd say you're an educator. Now, as a person that's been a kindergarten educator, as a person who is a yoga teacher, Susan, why do you think it's important to teach not just kids courage and resilience, but older folks as well? I hear you talking that you're modeling these practices to everybody. Why is resilience
Well,
important?
I think it's these qualities of courage and empathy and all of that. They're innate. I feel like we've got them, and little kids especially, they've got them. But the world throws things at us that either make us kind of forget how to tap into them, or become jaded and older and lose these qualities altogether. And just so I feel like um, they ultimately need to be taught, whether that's modeling through books, all of that. So I just think it's courage and resilience are important because kids need, and kids of all ages, right? Grown-up kids and little
Yeah.
kids need to be reminded that, like, oh, this is something I already have inside myself. I just need to remember how to tap into it. And so that's, I don't feel like they need to be taught because kids, they're not courageous and they're not resilient and they don't know how to do these things. If they can remember that in their everyday lives, they're constantly displaying these qualities, then it's something they can reflect back on, tap into more frequently in their encounters with other people and then, with the world. So I just think it's important to teach it,
Mhm.
and also I feel like books are never the whole answer. They're just a way to kind of kick off the conversation or the practice. So that's why I think books are such a wonderful tool. And the hope is that they lead to more conversation. They lead to more activity. They lead to more modeling and things like that. Hope that answered that.
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah, I'm hearing you talk about the value of embodiment and the power of modeling. So here's where I'm going to get a little personal, if you don't mind.
Don't mind.
So, as a yoga teacher, as a practitioner, um, what are some different aspects of yoga and mindfulness that you've incorporated into your life that you feel like are your go-tos?
I mean, both practices are really important to me in my life. And at certain times I put them on pause, thinking that I don't have time or everything's too, overwhelming or whatever. And those are probably the times that I need them the most. And I started to learn that. But I'm a parent, I have three now teenagers. So, they're that's very challenging and wonderful and terrifying at the same time. So, these practices have become really important to me, whether they're, like I said, doing something that makes me uncomfortable so that I can sort of put that into practice in my real life. Um, my mindfulness practices, I have found that they help me so much with my parenting because I learn not to react, but really to take a moment and try very hard to respond versus reacting. It doesn't always work, but it works more than not. So all of these practices, they've become less about my physical body, exercise or things like that, and more about how I take care of myself and how I take care of myself so that I can take care of others. So that's sort of how, and I try to incorporate them into my life almost on a daily basis. Sometimes I need to uh, consciously think, okay, this is a moment when I need to practice breathing. And sometimes it's my go-to. So they're really practices that are important to me in my everyday, because I feel like for me personally, people have all kinds of things that they do. But for me personally, it helps me handle the things that the world is throwing at me, or that my children are throwing at me, or that, my family is throwing at me. So that's how I sort of do them every day, even if it's just a little.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the key. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. I think that's really the key, is just a little bit consistently,
Right.
right?
I think that's right. I think, we put a lot of expectation on ourselves, and, but I don't feel like it has to be, I don't have to go to a 75-minute class every day to be practicing yoga, right? I can do whatever I can do for however long I can do it, and just know that that was enough in that moment. And I think that also helps me kind of, you know, um, love myself, like forgive myself, be kinder to myself, like recognize the little things that I'm doing that add up to these bigger things.
Beautiful, beautiful. So to our membership, listen, we have Susan with us. She clearly lives what she talks about and writes about. She has an entire series of I Am books. She's preparing right now to share with us from I Am Courage. But if there's something that's resonated with you that you've heard already, or if you have a question based off of what we've covered so far in this talk, this is your time to begin to form your questions. If you want to type them out in the chat and post them there, go for it. Susan's going to share with us. She was gracious enough to be willing to share with us a read from the book. Now we're putting in a special request here at YoKid that you share with us the author's note. So everybody that's tuned in right now, get yourself ready if you aren't forming that question. Susan's going to be sharing with us the author's note, as well as sharing with us in her own way, I Am Courage. Susan, floor is yours.
I'm very excited. Typically, well, the author's note is at the end of the book, but lately when I've been doing these, visiting schools or doing presentations, I'm starting with the author's note. I'm so privileged and lucky to be able to put in an author's note. I'm thankful to my editor and publisher who let me do that for each of these books. But this one in particular, I don't know. I feel like it's important to start with it and talk about it, and then lead into the book. So if that's okay with you, I will start with the author. And there's, really not, this is what it looks like, but I am going to hold it in front of me while I read it. And then when I read the rest of the book, I'll hold it up like that. So my author's note for I Am Courage, a book of resilience, is this. Often when we think of someone brave, we think of one who is without fear, boldly slaying dragons or moving through the world, conquering every obstacle in their way. It may look on the outside like things come easy for some, that they are never afraid, but that isn't what's true. Although what scares each of us may be different, fear is something we all feel, and we don't need to hide it. It's okay to talk about. Bravery isn't fearlessness. Real courage comes from being afraid and still facing what challenges you, whether that means asking for help, sharing your truth, or slaying a dragon. Once you rule out danger, fear is a place for opportunity and growth. I Am Courage is a story about how to find courage within ourselves when we feel afraid or unable. It's about the ways in which we are brave every day and how we will fall down, but we all have the ability to get back up again and keep on going. We are all courageous. And like I said, I put that fierce pose in there, and I do it with everyone. So I suffer through it with everyone. But I just felt like, the author's note, it just allowed me to kind of clarify that being courageous is not having fear. We all have fear. Even the most successful, strongest, most famous athlete or actor or whatever, they have fear. But they learn techniques, they learn how to work through it, how to keep going and try to reach for whatever their goals are. And the other thing I mentioned is that sometimes we're afraid, and it is a real sign of danger. So there is kind of figuring out that difference. And then once we realize that we're not in real danger, then we have a chance to grow and and learn. So anyway, thank you for indulging. So here we go. I Am Courage, a book of resilience. I'm going to do my little teacher hold up. When there are challenges in front of me, when I feel unstable, like I might fall, and I think about turning back or giving up, when my mind tells me I can't, I look inside myself and find the strength that lives deep down, and I tell my mind, yes, I can. And typically I'll stop here with kids and say, we can talk to our minds. Sometimes our minds tell us things that aren't real, and we can speak back to them and say, wait, that's not true. Yes, I can do that. I have faith in what's possible. I accept the challenge and keep on going. I move ahead one breath at a time. I act with bravery. I am courage. I can trust what my gut is telling me. I believe in myself. I can feel scared, but still carry on. I persevere. I can tumble and still get up again. I am resilient. I can lean on those around me. I am not afraid to ask for support. I can encourage another when there is doubt. I am uplifting. I can know there is no shame in sharing. I tell my story. I can step in when others are struggling. I know how to help. I can be the one to clear the way for someone else. I am an example. When I feel uncertain and start to lose my balance, I find my center and gather my strength. I know what I am. I am courage. And I can keep going. We can all keep going. We are strong. We are capable. We are important. We are courage. And we are triumphant. And that's the end. Yay.
I love it. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that.
Of course.
Again, as Susan's sharing with us in these last few minutes of our time together, if there are any questions or comments or words of encouragement that you might be willing or wanting to share with Susan or even the room, you're welcome to use that chat function and go ahead and share it. Now, speaking of sharing and speaking of courage, we're just going to share my screen here real quick because we did deal with a giveaway around some questions pertaining to your book. So let's see here. I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. Our giveaway question was this: If you were to teach a kids yoga class around the theme of courage, what yoga or mindfulness practices or activities would you include? Now, we got some responses, and let's just take a quick look here. Let's quickly go through them. I'll give folks just a few moments just to read them on their own, and I'll just select one, maybe two. So I'm going to read quickly in the top right corner. Kids with Shauna shared as a community response. I like to reflect on courage by baby stepping some poses, whether that's a tree with just toes on the floor and then leg to lower leg. And then try while saying, I can do this versus I can't do this. And discussing the differences in experience while changing the words. I think that's pretty neat. To me, Susan, that kind of speaks a little bit to what you said earlier, just as far as um, the ability to just be where you are
Yeah.
and do a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
yeah, yeah. So we also want to announce our giveaway winner.
Oh, yeah.
Ta-da!
Drum roll.
Candence, you were comment number 8. You're our first to last entry. We're going to be reaching out to you regarding your copy of I Am Courage. So we want to say thanks to all that entered and all who shared. Thank you for that. It looks like we have some things here as we begin to wind down our time, Susan. Just want to really quickly want to highlight some of what's in the chat.
Sure.
Nayeli says, I love the courage and encourage.
Oh, I love that. Love.
Joan shared, thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah. Kristen also says, thanks. Christy shares lovely book and share. She appreciates the books. Shannon asked, as she says, first, wonderful books, and then asked the question, can I order an autographed book for my kids?
Ah, well, the easiest way to do that is to order from, I can put it in the chat, but my local bookstore, because I can go in and sign it and they will mail it to you. But it's I don't know how I pass on that
Please
information.
go ahead. If you want to put it in the chat, you're welcome to do
Sure.
that. If
Just
Nayeli's here, I know that Nayeli's going to put it in the chat as well. So if you want to say it and then type it, that'll work.
in East.
While you're doing that, looks like Tony added, thank you, Susan. I just ordered and received the I Am Love book last night,
Oh,
and
yeah.
my daughter loved it.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, Tony says, I'm excited to use your book with my daughter's Girl Scout troop and at my school. So
Yeah.
Susan, it looks like you put contact information there as far as
Yeah,
receiving
I
an
just put
autographed
the name.
copy.
I don't have the number or anything, but if you go to their Instagram, you can message or get their information and call. So
Awesome. Well, listen, we're coming to time. Susan, if there's any final thoughts, any final words, and perhaps just as importantly, if not more so, where can people find you?
you're so nice. Well, people can find me. I'm mostly active in terms of social media on Instagram, so just at Susan Verde. And then my website is susanverde.com. And there's a place where you can email me, and there's information about the books and school visits and all that kind of thing. So those are the best places to find me. And final thoughts. I don't know. I just, appreciate this community so much. And the fact that people care so much about the well-being of kids in schools and outside of schools and adults and all the work that you're doing to really make the world a better place, and you're doing it. So I'm honored to be able to do my part, and I'm just so thankful for all of you. So
Thank you again. Thank you again. For all those that are hanging out with us today, if you haven't already had a chance to share out what kids yoga means to you, go ahead and hit us up at our IG handle. Make sure that we're hearing from you. Reach out to Susan, and again, continue to send her your encouragement, your best well wishes. We'll see everybody again soon. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.